Even if they're separated, silenced, or pretended nothing's wrong, Jungkook and Taehyung find a way to reunite. Jungkook doesn't act on impulse when he gets close to Taehyung. He does so knowing there may be consequences. There are rules and boundaries set by the company and outsiders that try to separate Taehyung, but none of it stops him. Sometimes he doesn't need words, he simply acts. He looks for Taehyung, moves toward him, takes the risk of showing his closeness even when he knows they're being watched. This insistence isn't born out of whim, but from an intense need to stay close. The small gestures they make in public, the moments where they seem to purposefully ignore what is said to them, show a pattern that isn't accidental. When they are separated, they find ways to find each other again. They don't stop even when the looks turn harsh or the comments are malicious. The desire to stay by each other's side overcomes any obstacle, even those set by the company or people close to the team. Jungkook positions himself as someone who isn't willing to give up easily. He doesn't need to make grand declarations. With simple actions, he demonstrates his priority, to be near Taehyung, even if it's just for a few seconds. And Taehyung allows it too, accepts it, responds. He doesn't stop him, doesn't walk away, doesn't turn his back on him. Even if the world tries to pretend nothing's happening, they're still there, finding moments alone together, even if they have to pretend they didn't hear a warning or an order. A warning disguised as a game, a spontaneous shout, and an immediate reaction. Taehyung made it clear that he doesn't share Jungkook with anyone. Taehyung doesn't need to say exact words to show how he feels about Jungkook. His language has always been visible, gestures, looks, and sounds. In one of the most obvious moments, everything was concentrated in a single detail. When Jin hugged Jungkook and Taehyung responded with a short but direct shout. Although it seemed playful, what happened next made the intention clear. Jin let go of Jungkook, not because the hug ended naturally, but because he understood that Taehyung was demanding him. These kinds of reactions don't appear by chance. They repeat themselves and change form, but the message is the same. Every time Jungkook interacts with another member, Taehyung is attentive. Sometimes he approaches, sometimes he observes, other times he gives small signals like that shout. But there's always one thing in common: he's marking his territory, making it clear that Jungkook is important to him and that he doesn't like others getting too close. The company has tried to separate Taehyung many times. They know that if they stay as close as they are now, they'll end up making what's already obvious even more obvious. Their attempts to disguise this relationship are noticeable when they place them far apart during activities, when they assign them different roles, or when they limit their public interactions. However, some things can't be avoided. Emotions aren't easily hidden, and Taehyung demonstrates this every time he reacts with a clear gesture when he sees Jungkook with someone else. Taehyung isn't just another person in Jungkook's life, he's that fixed point to which he always returns, that place where his expressions change. For years, Jungkook and Taehyung have publicly demonstrated a way of relating that needs no explanation. It's not an act or a simple passing behavior. Every time they share space, their gestures speak for themselves. The smiles Jungkook displays when he's around Taehyung aren't ordinary, they're consistent, and they repeat themselves multiple times without any external reason. It's a pattern that only appears with him. Playing with someone isn't the same as constantly touching them, searching for them with your eyes, laughing for no reason just to be near them. What they display isn't just any game. When they're together, they don't just laugh, they touch each other, they search for each other, they constantly observe each other. This level of physical closeness doesn't just happen, it's because there's a mutual need for contact, for constant presence, for recognizing the other as something essential. This way of behaving isn't part of a professional routine or a simple effect of years of living together. It runs deeper. It's the construction of a relationship that has been shaped by shared moments, by a history that is evident even in the smallest things: how they look at each other, how they approach each other, how they understand each other without speaking. In every gesture Jungkook makes toward Taehyung, there is care, there is a way of giving of himself that isn't seen with others. What happens when Taehyung and Jungkook are together can't be called just play. The physical interactions between them go beyond casual banter or spontaneous contact. There is a kind of play that only occurs between two people who trust each other completely, who know each other's limits and, moreover, surpass them because there are no longer any barriers between them. The company can separate schedules, divide spaces, and set strict boundaries. But there's one thing they can't control: what exists between Jungkook and Taehyung. Even if they try to make it seem casual, the connection between them remains present in every moment they manage to share, in every glance they exchange, and in every gesture of closeness that challenges the established order. The system they live in wasn't designed to allow that kind of bond. There are expectations of image, of control, of obedience. But Taehyung constantly challenges that, not with scandals, but with powerful silences and small actions that speak louder than any words. Even when others try to cover up what's happening, they demonstrate it anyway: a touch, an unnecessary closeness, an insistent presence that makes it clear that, even if they don't say it, they are connected in a way they can't ignore. This kind of connection isn't maintained by chance. There's a clear intention. Taehyung doesn't stop Jungkook, he doesn't distance himself. And Jungkook, for his part, always finds a way to get closer, even if he knows someone might be watching. Their relationship is strong not because it's visible, but because it has withstood all kinds of pressure. Neither negative comments nor rules have managed to extinguish it. At many times, attempts have been made to normalize the distance between them, as if it were necessary, as if it were for convenience. But that only reinforces how hard they try to stay close. Every time they're separated, they reappear together, even if it's only for seconds. There are people who find this kind of closeness bothersome. People who prefer their relationship to be seen as limited, contained, or invisible. But that discomfort hasn't stopped Jungkook. Their closeness continues to grow, continues to appear when least expected. Despite attempts to hide it, it's there. And what most disconcerts those who want to separate them is that they can't do it completely. Although many efforts have been made to hide what happens between Taehyung and Jungkook, their gestures always end up coming to light. One of the most common methods the company has used has been visual separation. They prevent them from sitting together, having long shared moments, or interacting without a script. Everything seems designed to avoid the closeness between them from attracting attention. However, Taehyung always finds a way to get closer again. The jealousy Taehyung displays isn't an unfounded act. It stems from an ongoing relationship that has endured many trials. Although the environment tries to portray a different reality, they have done the opposite. They haven't stopped paying attention to each other, not even when they're at public events or in the presence of other people. The clearest example is when Taehyung lets out that scream that interrupts a hug between Jin and Jungkook. It's not common, it's not a random reaction. It's a clear way of marking his space. The other members don't confront him or question him. They simply act in response. Jin, hearing that small cry, lets go of Jungkook without saying a word. This shows they already know the way Taehyung expresses his discomfort. They know it's not a game. They've seen it more than once. Even when there's no shouting, Taehyung's body language speaks volumes. His eyes lock, his body tenses, or his presence becomes constant around Jungkook. This behavior hasn't happened just once. It's happened multiple times. The setting changes, the person changes, but the reaction doesn't change. To a viewer who doesn't pay attention to the details, these moments may seem like simple reactions. But for those who follow Taehyung, there's no doubt what's going on. The signs are visible. This isn't just an ordinary friendship. There's nothing casual about how they act when they're together or when others try to occupy that space. Eye contact between them is constant. These aren't quick or accidental glances. They're sustained, firm, and often accompanied by physical gestures. Touches on the arms, the legs, the face. Small caresses that aren't given by mistake. When they're in a shared environment, it doesn't take long for one of them to touch the other. This reveals a need for physical validation, to reassure each other that the other is present, available, and close. This behavior isn't repeated with others. There's intention in each gesture, a comfort that isn't easily found. Over time, it's become clear that the way Taehyung approaches Jungkook and how Jungkook responds isn't part of a general pattern with other people. It's exclusive, intimate, and remains constant regardless of the location or context. This isn't just a game. This is an intimate dynamic where physical contact is necessary, not just desired. It's as if being close isn't enough, as if the only way to feel complete is by touching each other, affirming with your hands what you've already said with your eyes. It's not an act, because you can't fake that kind of body language for so long without it being noticeable. And in this case, the only thing that's noticeable is authenticity. The kind of contact they have is unusual. It's not limited to specific moments or reactions to an audience. Even in casual instances, the need for closeness is still present. It's not a strategy. It's a way of experiencing their relationship, where touch, gaze, and smile play a central role. And that pattern isn't broken, it doesn't disappear, it only becomes more evident with the passage of time. To deny this is to ignore years of public evidence. Those who choose not to see reality are choosing denial over observation. Because anyone who sees how they act together, unedited, unfiltered, will know that this relationship doesn't need imposed labels, it already has its own definition, based on repeated actions, clear glances, and a physical contact that speaks for itself.